Can love be born in the wrong place? Imagine growing up hearing that certain people are your enemies, that some alliances should never be formed, and that there are names you should never utter without rancor. Now imagine that, in the midst of this silent war, your heart chooses precisely who you should never love. That's what happened to Raphael and Helena. Heirs to rival empires, raised to hate each other but destined to meet. The first glance was curiosity, the first touch, a mistake. The first kiss, a point of no return. They tried to hide it, they pretended they could control it. But love is the one thing that can never be tamed. And when their families discover the truth, what was passion turns into survival. Now, they have a choice. Give up on each other, or challenge everything they know, even if it means losing everything. This isn't just a forbidden romance, it's a fight against fate. And the only question that remains is, how far can love go before it becomes impossible? Raphael was holding a glass of whiskey, swirling the amber liquid without really paying attention. The ballroom was full of important people, businessmen and politicians, exchanging rehearsed smiles as they sealed silent deals. He had been to hundreds of events like that, always the same faces, the same empty conversations. But that night, something was different, or rather, someone. Across the hall, Helena. Her dark blue dress highlighted her delicate features, and her eyes roamed the room as if looking for a way out. Raphael recognized that look. He himself had felt this way countless times, trapped in a game he didn't choose to play. But what really caught his attention wasn't just her presence, it was her surname, the heir to the family he grew up hating. "You're staring too long." The voice of Lucas, his longtime friend, snapped him out of his thoughts. "I didn't even realize." Raphael took a sip of his whiskey. Lucas followed his gaze and let out a low laugh. "You've got to be kidding." "So her?" Raphael didn't answer. "Dude, you two shouldn't even be in the same room. If your father sees you looking at her like that, he'll kick you out of here." "My father has enough problems without having to control where I look." Lucas laughed again, but Raphael ignored it. He didn't know what impelled him to step forward, but before he could rethink his decision, he was already approaching. Helena hadn't noticed him yet. She was chatting to an older couple, maintaining a polite smile, but her eyes gave away her boredom. He positioned himself close enough for his presence to be noticed, but without being intrusive. When she finally looked in his direction, Raphael saw the surprise in her eyes. "This may sound bold, but I think you're in need of a rescue." Helena blinked, confused. "What?" He gestured discreetly with his head towards the couple talking to her. "You clearly want to get away from this conversation." She raised an eyebrow, appraising him. "And you think you can save me?" Raphael smiled. "Let's just say I'm good at getting people out of boring situations." Helena hesitated. He saw the doubt in her eyes, as if she was considering whether or not to get involved in the conversation. But then something changed in her expression. "Then get me out of here." He didn't need anything else. Raphael held out his arm to her, who accepted without hesitation. As he led her through the hall, he felt curious looks all around. People recognizing who they were, trying to understand what they were seeing. He led her to a more private corner, away from the watchful eyes of their families. "Do you always do this?" Helena asked, crossing her arms. "It depends." "Do you always accept help from strangers?" She laughed, without looking away. "You're not exactly a stranger. We've just never had the chance to talk before. Maybe because our families would do anything to avoid it." The shadow of reality hung over them. The weight of the rivalry between their families was impossible to ignore. "And yet, here we are," she said. "Here we are." The silence between them wasn't uncomfortable. On the contrary, it was charged with something indefinable, a tension that neither of them seemed willing to break. Helena was the first to look away. "That was interesting, but if we're seen together for too long, it could become a problem." "Are you afraid?" She smiled. "I have my wits about me." Raphael knew that should be the end of the conversation. but something in him refused to let her go so easily. Then let's make a deal. Helena arched an eyebrow. What kind of deal? One more minute of conversation, then you can go. She studied his face, pondering. And what's in it for me? He smiled. You can decide. Helena took a deep breath, as if testing her own limits. All right then, just a minute. The game had begun. Your minute is up, said Helena with a defiant smile. Raphael watched her calmly, as if he already knew that she wasn't really interested in leaving. Time is relative. She crossed her arms. Is it? A minute can seem eternal depending on the company. Helena laughed quietly, shaking her head. You talk as if you had all the time in the world, and you talk as if you're running away from it. She didn't reply immediately, perhaps because he was right. He was right. Your minute is up, Helena said, taking a step back. So why are you still here? She blinked, surprised. You said you were leaving. You said you were leaving, but you didn't. Helena opened her mouth to reply, but nothing came out. Raphael smiled. Then let's be honest. This amuses you as much as it amuses me. She bit her lip, assessing him. This can't happen. What exactly? Us. He tilted his head. That's funny. I don't remember us deciding that there is an us. Helena sighed, looking away for a moment. That was a mistake. So, why doesn't it look like one? She stared at him, and for a moment, Raphael was sure she wanted to say something. But before he could, a familiar voice interrupted them. Helena. She froze. Raphael recognized the man before he even approached. It was her brother, the successor to the family, the man who would inherit the empire that rivaled his own father's. What are you doing here with him? Helena's brother asked, his expression hard. Helena hesitated. We were just talking. Her brother's gaze swept over Raphael with coldness. Talking. With him. Raphael remained calm. We're adults. I think we can talk without it meaning war, don't you? Helena's brother wasn't convinced. You think this is a game, don't you? I never said that. The atmosphere between them became tense. Helena, we need to go, said her brother, ignoring Raphael completely. She looked at Raphael for a moment, then nodded. Yes, of course. Before leaving, she took one last look at Raphael, and in that instant, he knew. She felt the same way he did. Raphael couldn't get Helena out of his mind. Over the next few days, he tried to ignore the feeling that that unfinished conversation needed to be continued. But the more he tried, the more he realized he couldn't. Then, an unexpected invitation came to him. Are you going? Lucas asked, looking at the invitation. Raphael turned the glass of whiskey in his hand. I don't know. You know her family will be there. I know. Lucas laughed. You're going because of her. Raphael didn't deny it. The event was more formal than the last one. A charity auction, full of familiar faces. Raphael was walking through the hall when he saw her. Helena looked stunning, but something in her eyes showed that she didn't want to be there. It was she who saw him first. For a moment, she looked surprised. Then, as if accepting the inevitability of the moment, she took a step towards him. You've come. I guess I did. She let out a sigh. You know this is dangerous. Maybe that's exactly why you're here now. Helena bit her lip, glancing around discreetly. We can't talk here. Then where? She hesitated. The back garden. 5 minutes. Raphael just nodded, and he knew, in that instant, that this was only the beginning. Raphael walked through the silent garden, the distant sound of the party, muffled by the surrounding trees. The night air was cool, full of anticipation. And then Helena appeared. She looked around before approaching, as if making sure no one saw them. This is a terrible idea, she said bluntly. Raphael smiled. And yet you came. Helena sighed. Why are you insisting on this? Do you really want me to stop? She hesitated. Raphael, if you say you want me to leave, I will. Now. Helena pressed her lips together, looking away. The silence lengthened. That's what I thought, he said, taking a step closer. She raised her eyes and Raphael felt he could lose himself in them. It can't happen, but it's already happening. For a moment no words were spoken, and then he kissed her. Helena was still for a second, but then she responded. Her hands touched the back of Raphael's neck, and he pulled her closer. There was no reason, no logic. There was only the moment. When they pulled away, they were both panting. "That," Helena began, but stopped. "Do you want me to apologize?" She shook her head. "No, I don't." Raphael smiled. "Then don't either." Helena sighed, running her hands through her hair. "I have to go." He nodded. "But it's not over yet." She didn't answer. She just turned and disappeared down the path back to the party. The next few days were a whirlwind. Raphael couldn't get her out of his mind. And it seemed so was she, because a week later, it was Helena who sought him out. "Are you free tonight?" Raphael arched an eyebrow. "For you, always." She rolled her eyes but smiled. "We can't be seen. I know a place." The discreet restaurant was away from the city center, far from prying eyes. Helena was nervous but tried to hide it. "There's still time to give up," said Raphael, holding up the menu. "Don't tempt me." He smiled. "I would never try anything you didn't want." She looked up, and something passed between them. "This is crazy, isn't it?" "A little," she smiled. "But you like it. Maybe I like you." Her smile faltered. "Raphael, you don't have to say anything. I just want you to know." Helena took a deep breath. "If our families find out, we'll deal with it when it happens." She stared at him for a long moment. "You talk as if it's easy. Because for me, you're worth any complication." She looked away, but Raphael saw the blush on her face, and he knew that for the first time, Helena was allowing herself to feel. Later, when it was getting late in the evening, Raphael walked her to her car. "Thank you for tonight," said Helena. "I should thank you." She hesitated before speaking. "Can we do it again?" Raphael smiled. "Whenever you want." She opened the car door, but before she got in, she stopped. "Good evening, Raphael." He held the door for a moment. "Good night, Helena." And as he watched her go, Raphael knew that this was just the first of many encounters. The silence inside the house was tense. Helena knew that her father was watching her, although he hadn't said anything yet. He was a man of few words, but Helena had learned to recognize the signs. And that night, the signs were all there. "Is something wrong?" she asked, trying to sound casual. Her father stared at her for a long moment before answering. "Where have you been?" Helena swallowed. "Having dinner with a friend." He frowned. "What friend?" She knew that any wrong answer could arouse suspicion. "A colleague from work." Her father's gaze remained fixed on her. "You've been different lately." "How different?" He didn't answer right away. "Just be careful." Helena nodded, but the warning kept hammering away in her head. On the other side of town, Raphael felt the same weight. His father watched him as he poured himself a glass of whiskey. "You've been distracted," he said casually. Raphael shrugged. "Work." "Work?" His father arched an eyebrow. "Or is there something else?" Raphael kept his expression neutral. "What else could it be?" The man looked at his son for a moment before taking a sip of his drink. "I hope you're not forgetting who we are." Raphael felt the weight of that sentence. "I never forget." His father nodded, satisfied, but Raphael didn't know if it was a lie. The following evening, Helena and Raphael met again. This time in an even more discreet place, an old gazebo that he used to go to when he wanted to escape the chaos. "I don't know how long we can keep this up," she said, watching the city lights in the distance. "Do you want to stop?" She hesitated. "No, I don't." He smiled. "Then let's not." Helena looked at him, biting her lip. "Do you realize what we're doing? Falling in love?" She let out an exasperated sigh. "Aren't you afraid?" "Afraid of what?" "That they'll find out." Raphael moved closer, taking her hand. "There's only fear when there's regret." Helena looked away. "I don't regret it." He smiled. "Then there is no fear." She shook her head, laughing softly. "Do you always have an answer for everything?" "For you, always." Helena sighed. "Raphael." "Yes?" "Is this real?" He held her face gently. "It is for me." and then he kissed her without hesitation. This time there was no guilt, there was no fear, there was just the moment. But secrets never last forever, and the next morning, Helena felt it. "Who is he?" Her brother's voice made her freeze. She turned around slowly, trying to hide her tension. "What are you talking about?" Her brother crossed his arms. "I saw you yesterday. You weren't alone." Helena felt her heart race. "Did you follow me? I protected you." She clenched her fists. Raphael, his name was spoken like an accusation. The shock on his face said it all. "Helena, don't try to tell me what to do. Do you realize what this means?" She looked him in the eye. "Yes, I do." Her brother took a deep breath, but didn't say anything else. Helena knew he wouldn't keep quiet for long. The secret was hanging by a thread, and when it fell, nothing would ever be the same again. Helena didn't sleep that night. Her brother knew, and if he knew, it was only a matter of time before her parents knew too. She paced back and forth in her room, trying to imagine all the possibilities, trying to convince herself that there was still a way out. But the problem was that she didn't want a way out. She wanted Raphael. She picked up her phone and typed in a message. "Can we meet?" The reply came a few seconds later. "Always." The meeting took place at the same time, at the same viewpoint as always, but this time the air between them was different. "What happened?" Raphael asked as soon as he saw her. Helena looked at him for a moment, as if deciding whether to tell him, but then she realized she had no choice. "My brother knows." Raphael showed no surprise. "It was inevitable. You don't understand. If he tells, everything could fall apart." "Yes, I do." She shook her head in frustration. "Then why do you seem so calm?" He held her face gently. "Because if it does fall apart, I want us to be together when it does." Helena felt a lump in her throat. "You talk as if everything is simple." "It's not simple, but it's real." She closed her eyes for a moment, feeling the weight of those words. "What are we going to do?" Raphael sighed. "We only have two choices." She opened her eyes. "Which choice?" He squeezed her hand. "Either we face this together, or we give up now." The silence stretched between them. Helena bit her lip, trying to organize her thoughts. "Raphael, you don't have to answer now." She looked him in the eye. "But you need to know that I won't give up." Helena felt something inside her break, because for the first time she realized that she didn't want to give up either. But fate has never been kind to stories like this. 2 days later, Raphael received the worst message he could imagine. "They know." That was all that was written. But he understood immediately. Without hesitation, he grabbed his car keys and left. He knew exactly where to go. When he arrived at Helena's house, the atmosphere was already charged. She was standing at the front door, her arms crossed, her face pale, and her father was right behind her. "You have a lot of nerve showing up here." The man's voice was cold, calculated. Raphael kept his gaze steady. "I didn't come to fight." "Then you should leave now." Helena intervened before anything worse happened. "Dad, please." "Do you know what this means, Helena? Do you realize the shame you're bringing on this family?" She swallowed. "I didn't do anything wrong." Her father laughed, humorlessly. "You got involved with someone who has destroyed our family for years. If that's not wrong, then what is?" Raphael clenched his fists. "I'm not my father. And yet you carry his rotten blood." The silence was heavy. Helena looked at Raphael pleadingly. But Raphael knew there was no more room for conversation there. He looked at her, holding her gaze for a moment. "You know where to find me." And then, without another word, he turned and left. Helena's heart told her to run after him, but her legs didn't obey. The silence in Helena's house was suffocating. Dinner that night was tense, punctuated only by the sound of cutlery clattering against plates. No one talked about what had happened that afternoon, but everyone felt the presence of the problem like a shadow in the room, until his father finally broke the silence. "That ends today." Helena looked up, her heart racing. "What ends?" He stared at her coldly. "This farce," You'll never see Raphael again. She clenched her fists under the table. You can't decide that for me? Her mother sighed, trying to intervene. Helena, your family comes first. You know what's at stake. Helena looked at them both, feeling her anger rising. What's at stake? Pride? Business? Her father placed the cutlery on the table with a controlled but threatening movement. You don't understand, Helena. This isn't a naive romance. It's war. She felt a chill run down her spine. War. Do you think his family would forgive us if it were the other way around? She didn't answer. You're going to end it. Today. Helena felt her stomach turn. What if I don't want to? Her father leaned forward. Then you won't be my daughter anymore. The blow was direct, cold. The world around her seemed to spin. Raphael was sitting in his office when he heard the door slam. Have you completely lost your mind? His father's voice echoed through the room. Raphael looked up slowly. What exactly are we talking about? Don't play dumb. Did you really think you could hide this? Raphael said nothing. Do you want to destroy everything we've built? Get involved with a woman from that family? He let out a humorless laugh. Built? You built it yourself. His father narrowed his eyes. Don't play the rebel. You know what you have to do. Raphael crossed his arms. And what would that be? Break up with this girl. Raphael's blood boiled. If I don't do it. His father approached him with a cold stare. Then you're no longer my son. Raphael took a deep breath, keeping his posture firm. If that's how it's going to be, then I'm not your son anymore. His father stared at him for a long moment. Think about it, Raphael. You know what's at stake. But he had already thought. And at that moment, he decided that he wasn't going to lose Helena. Helena left the house that night, feeling like she was carrying the weight of the world on her shoulders. Her heart was beating fast, her breathing short. She walked through the streets until she reached Raphael's apartment. She knocked on the door. He answered in seconds. When he saw the look on her face, he knew something was wrong. What had happened? She entered without answering, walking to the middle of the living room. They want me to break up with you. Raphael closed the door slowly. And what do you want? Helena swallowed dryly, not knowing how to answer. Helena? She looked up. I can't lose you. Her heart squeezed. I don't want to lose you either. So we stay together. She shook her head in despair. It's not that simple. Raphael moved closer. Yes, it is. Helena felt tears forming. If I choose you, I'll lose my family. He held her face gently. So tell me, what does your heart want? Silence hung between them. Then she kissed him, with desperation, with fear, with love, because at that moment there was only one truth. She wanted Raphael. But would that be enough? Helena's kiss carried desperation. Raphael felt the urgency on her lips, the doubt, the fear. When they pulled away, he held her tight, as if to stop her from disappearing. Tell me you'll stay with me, he whispered. Helena closed her eyes, trying to hold back the tears. I want to. He held her face gently. So what's stopping you? She swallowed. You know what? Raphael shook his head. I don't care about them. But I do care. The boom of her voice echoed through the apartment. Raphael took a step back, surprised. Helena ran her hands over her face, taking a deep breath. They're my family, Raphael. You know what that means. He crossed his arms, trying to contain his frustration. Family or fear? She stared at him. You don't understand. Then explain it to me. Helena clenched her fists. If I choose you, I'll never be able to go home again. Raphael took a step forward. And if you don't choose, will you be able to live without me? Her silence said it all. He held out his hand. Let's get out of here, now. Helena blinked, confused. What? Staying here doesn't change anything. Let's go. Go where? Away. Just you and me. Helena's heart raced. Are you serious? I've never been so serious. She felt the ground disappear beneath her feet. Raphael, if you want, we can run away. Helena looked into his eyes, trying to find some doubt, but all she found was certainty. But on the other side of town, the decision was already being made for them. Helena's father was pacing back and forth in his office. Her brother stood to the side, watching in silence. "That's enough," said her father. "This story ends today." His brother nodded. "What are we going to do?" Dad picked up the phone. "Let's end it in the only way you understand." The tension in the air was palpable. Helena and Raphael thought they had a choice, but that decision had never been in their hands. Helena grabbed the small suitcase she always left ready, with only the essentials. When she returned to the living room, Raphael was waiting for her at the door. "Are you ready?" he asked. She took a deep breath. Yes, she was. He took her hand and squeezed it tightly. "Then let's go." But before they could take the first step out of the apartment, the door was slammed hard. Helena's heart froze. Raphael instinctively pulled her back. "Who is it?" he asked, his voice tense. The silence lasted a second too long. Then there was another knock, stronger. Helena recognized her brother's voice on the other side. "Open the door, Raphael." Her blood ran cold. "Don't do that," she whispered to Raphael. He looked at her. "If I don't, they'll break down the door." Her breathing became shaky. "So what are we going to do?" Raphael looked at the window. Helena understood immediately. He held her hand tighter. "Do you trust me?" She took a deep breath. "Always." Raphael pulled her by the hand and ran towards the alternative exit. The only thing they had was time, and time was running out. The sound of knocks on the door echoed through the apartment, getting louder and louder. Raphael pulled Helena by the hand, leading her to the back exit. "Is this going to work?" she asked, panting. He looked at her quickly. "There's only one way to find out." Adrenaline burned through their veins as they descended the fire escape. The freezing night air cut into their skin, but the urgency kept them warm. When they reached the first floor, Raphael glanced down the street. On the other side, a black car was parked. He recognized it immediately. Helena's father had arrived. Helena held his arm tightly. "We can't go out the front." Raphael looked around quickly, searching for an alternative. His eyes landed on a narrow alley next to the building. "This way." They ran, their footsteps echoing off the damp concrete. Helena's heart was beating so loudly that she felt she could hear it above everything else. Behind them, voices. They were seen. Raphael picked up his pace. "Faster!" Helena stumbled slightly, but he held her waist, preventing her from falling. "You can do it!" She nodded, forcing her legs to keep going. The alley ended in a busy avenue. Cars sped past, horns blaring in the air. It was their chance. Raphael pulled Helena into the middle of the traffic, dodging the cars that braked sharply. Shouts rang out behind them, but they kept running. When they finally reached the other side of the avenue, they got into a cab that was stationary. "Drive! Now!" Raphael ordered. The driver hesitated for a second, but then saw the men running towards them and stepped on the accelerator. Helena slumped against the seat, panting. Raphael took her hand, entwining his fingers in hers. "We're fine." She looked at him, her eyes full of fear and adrenaline. "For how long?" He took a deep breath. "For as long as we want." Hours later, they were already far from the city. The car had dropped them off at a small station where they caught a train. Now, sitting side by side, they felt the weight of what they had just done. Helena leaned her head on Raphael's shoulder. "What happens now?" He kissed her forehead gently. "Now we start again." She closed her eyes, allowing herself to believe it. They had defied everything. And, for the first time, they were free, together. And that was what mattered.